Now, the U.S. Department of State has issued a rare worldwide caution travel advisory, telling Americans to be on alert everywhere they go overseas due to increased tensions and the potential for terror attacks as Israel's war against Hamas rages.
In 2024, tourism across the globe is well on track to return to pre-pandemic levels, according to projections by UN Tourism. In January 2024 alone, about 4.6 million U.S. citizens left the country for international destinations, 17% higher than January 2019. On October 19, 2023, following the outbreak of war between Israel and Gaza and flaring tensions in the region, the U.S. State Department issued a worldwide caution advisory due to increased tensions in various locations around the world, the potential for terrorist attacks, demonstrations or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests. The U.S. State Department also issues individual travel advisory levels for more than 200 countries globally, continually updating them based on a variety of risk indicators such as health, terrorism, and civil unrest. Travel advisory levels range from level 1, which means exercise normal precautions, to level 4, which means do not travel there. About 10% of countries, 19 total, have a level 4. Do not travel advisory as of March 2024. In level 4 countries, the U.S. government may have very limited ability to step in should travelers' safety or security be at risk, according to the State Department. Crime, civil unrest, kidnapping, and terrorism are common risk factors associated with level 4 countries. Welcome to Top Blink, and let us unwind the topic, places the U.S. government warns not to travel. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon to stay updated on more captivating content. Places with a level 4 travel advisory. Afghanistan. The Central Asian country is wrestling with terrorism, risk of wrongful detention, kidnapping, and crime, according to the State Department. U.S. citizens are specifically at risk for wrongful detention and kidnapping. In 2022, the government reinstituted public floggings and executions, and women's rights are disappearing under Taliban control. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul halted operations in August 2021. Since the Taliban took control, many forms of international aid have been halted. Belarus, the country, which shares a western border with Russia and a southern border with Ukraine, has been flagged for Belarusian authorities' continued facilitation of Russia's war against Ukraine, the buildup of Russian military forces in Belarus, the arbitrary enforcement of local laws, the potential of civil unrest, the risk of detention. The embassy's limited ability to assist U.S. citizens residing in or traveling to Belarus is the reason for this travel caution. Burkina Faso. Terrorism, crime, and kidnapping are plaguing this West African nation. Terrorist attacks may target hotels, restaurants, and schools with little to no warning, and the East and Sahel regions of the country are under a state of emergency. Central African Republic. While there have not been specific incidents of U.S. citizens targeted with violence or crime, violent crime and sudden closure of roads and borders is common. The advisory states that Embassy Bangai's limited capacity to provide support to U.S. citizens, crime, civil unrest, and kidnapping is a factor in its assessment. Myanmar. Armed conflict and civil unrest are the primary reasons to not travel to this Southeast Asian country, which experienced a military coup in early 2021. Limited healthcare resources, wrongful detentions, and areas with landmines and unexploded ordnance are also listed as risk factors. Gaza. Hamas, a foreign terrorist organization as designated by the State Department, controls much of the Gaza Strip, which shares borders with both Israel and Egypt. On October 7, 2023, Hamas fighters broke across the border into Israel, killing hundreds of civilians and soldiers in a brazen attack that stunned Israelis. As of mid-December, nearly 85% of Gaza's population were displaced from their homes, according to UN estimates. The region continues to face shortages of food, water, electricity, and medical supplies, with conditions deemed far beyond a humanitarian crisis. The State Department warns of terrorism and armed conflict within Gaza's borders. Haiti. In July 2023, the Department of State ordered all non-emergency U.S. government personnel and family members to leave the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince in response to the increased risk of kidnapping and violent crime in the country, as well as armed conflict between gangs and police. The travel advisory states that cases of kidnapping often involve ransom negotiations, and U.S. citizen victims have been physically harmed during kidnappings. Iran. Terrorism, kidnapping, and civil unrest are risk factors for all travelers to Iran, while U.S. citizens are specifically at risk for arbitrary arrest. U.S. Iranian nationals such as students, journalists, and business travelers have been arrested on charges of espionage and threatening national security. Executions in Iran rose sharply between 2021 and 2022, bringing the country's total to nearly 580 people over the year, according to a report by Amnesty International released in May 2023. Iraq. The State Department cites terrorism, kidnapping, armed conflict, and civil unrest as cause for the country's Level 4 distinction. Iraq's northern borders, and its border with Syria, are especially dangerous. Since the escalation of conflict in neighboring Israel in October, there has been an increase in attacks against Iraqi military bases, which host U.S. troops and other international forces. In October 2023, non-emergency U.S. government personnel and eligible family members were ordered to leave the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Libya. Following the end of its dictatorship over a decade ago, Libya has been wrought with internal conflict between armed groups in the east and west. Armed conflict, civil unrest, crime, kidnapping, and terrorism are all risk factors. U.S. citizens have been targets of kidnapping for ransom, with terrorists targeting hotels and airports frequented by Westerners. The U.S. Embassy in Tripoli halted operations in 2014. Mali. After experiencing military coups in 2020 and 2021, crime, terrorism, and kidnapping are all prevalent threats in this West African landlocked nation. In July 2022, non-emergency U.S. government employees and their families were ordered to leave the country due to higher risk of terrorist activity. In December, the UN officially ended a decade-long peacekeeping presence in the country, which had been among the agency's deadliest missions, with hundreds of the mission personnel killed since 2013. Mexico. Each state in Mexico is assessed separately for travel advisory levels. 6 of the 32 states in Mexico are designated as Level 4: Colima, Guerrero, Michoacán, Sinaloa, Tamaulipas, and Zacatecas. Crime and kidnapping are listed as the primary risk factors throughout the country. Nearly 112,000 people were missing across the country as of October, a number the UN has called alarming. North Korea. U.S. passports are not valid for travel to, in, or through this country, home to one of the world's longest-running dynastic dictatorships. The travel advisory states that the Level 4 distinction is due to the continuing serious risk of arrest and long-term detention of U.S. nationals. Russia. The travel advisory for Russia cites its invasion of Ukraine, harassment of U.S. citizens by Russian government officials, and arbitrary law enforcement as a few of the reasons for the Level 4 designation. Chechnya and Mount Elbrus are specifically listed as Level 4 regions. Terrorism, civil unrest, health, kidnapping, and wrongful detention are all noted as risks. Somalia. Violent crime is common throughout Somalia, pirates frequent its coast off the Horn of Africa, and medical facilities where they exist have limited capacity. Crime, terrorism, civil unrest, health, and kidnapping are all risk factors. In January 2024, some passengers aboard a UN-contracted helicopter were taken hostage by al-Shabaab militants after the vehicle crashed in central Somalia. Sudan. The U.S. evacuated its embassy in Khartoum in April 2023, and the country closed its airspace due to the ongoing conflict in the country, only permitting humanitarian aid and evacuation efforts. Civil unrest is the primary risk factor for Africa's third-largest country by area, Syria. The advisory states that no part of Syria is safe from violence, with terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, armed conflict, and risk of unjust detention all potential risk factors. U.S. citizens are often a target for kidnappings and detention. The U.S. Embassy in Damascus halted operations in 2012. Ukraine. Russian setbacks in their invasion of Ukraine buoyed hopes in Ukraine in 2023. However, Ukraine is a Level 4 country due to Russia's invasion, with crime and civil unrest also noted as risk factors. The country's forces shot down 2 Russian fighter jets on Christmas Eve 2023, in a move Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said, sets the right mood for the entire year ahead. Venezuela. Human rights abuses and lack of health care plague this South American nation, which has been in a political crisis since 2014. In 2019, diplomatic personnel were withdrawn from the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. Threats in the country include crime, civil unrest, kidnapping, wrongful detention, and poor health infrastructure. Yemen. 6 of the 9 risk factors defined by the State Department, terrorism, civil unrest, health risks, kidnapping, armed conflict, and landmines, are all present in Yemen. Despite private companies offering tourist visits to the Yemeni island of Socotra, the U.S. government argues those arranging such visits are putting tourists in danger. Civil war and cholera are also both present throughout the country. The U.S. Embassy in Santa halted operations in 2015. So there you have it, folks. The level 4 countries where American travelers are warned not to travel in 2024. But hey, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Keep exploring, keep dreaming, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to unlock these hidden treasures someday. For more informative videos like this, subscribe to Top Blink. Till then, keep watching, be